Hey YouTube, this is just going to be a quick video outlining the pros and cons of each battery type and why you should choose one over the other. The main two different types of batteries that you will encounter typically are flooded lead acid battery, which is our typical starting battery and ones that have been around for a long time, and the lithium iron phosphate batteries, or they are abbreviated as LiFePO4 batteries. Those are the lithium iron phosphate batteries. The major differences between how to judge your battery capacity versus what type of battery you have is with your flooded lead acid batteries, whether it's an AGM, deep cycle, starter battery, whatever, the amp hour rating of that battery, let's just say it's a 100 amp hour battery, you only have about 50 amp hours that are usable out of that battery. And the reason being for that is because after the battery gets drained about halfway, which is, let's just say 50 amp hours, after you use about 50 amp hours of that battery up, then the voltage that is still being able to be produced by the battery drops below the actual usable voltage range of 12 volt systems. So like, I don't remember the exact voltage off the top of my head. Let's just say that at any time the voltage from the battery drops below 10 volts that's being supplied to a 12 volt system, that 12 volt item can no longer be used with that reduced supply voltage. So at about 50% discharge of a flooded lead acid battery, that voltage supply to your accessory will drop lower than what a 12 volt accessory is needing to function. Compared to a lithium iron phosphate battery, you're able to discharge that battery much lower. You are almost able to get the full 100 amp hours usage out of that battery before the supplied voltage to an accessory drops below usable voltage range. So that's a major benefit because you're able to use a smaller battery that has the same rating. 100 amp hour lithium iron phosphate battery is pretty much the equivalent of a 200 amp hour flooded lead acid battery. So that's a major benefit. On top of all that, the lithium iron phosphate batteries are much lighter than a lead acid battery, so it's much easier. You can kind of fit them in multiple different spots of your vehicle. Okay, so some of the cons of a lead acid battery versus a lithium iron phosphate battery is the con for lead acid battery is I've already touched on amp hour rating and usability of it. On top of that, the weight is a negative. You have to maintain the distilled water that's inside of each cell of the battery as well. If you don't maintain that correctly, it could really affect the life of your battery. They typically only last 3, 4, 5 years, so you're having to replace them a lot more frequently. One of the major cons of the lithium iron phosphate battery that people have had historically is the danger of them, because the original lithium batteries that were used were designed a little bit differently and they were prone to catching fire. However, a lot of the technology today has advanced past that to where there's all these fail-safes, mechanical, technological fail-safes that monitor the battery and keep that from happening. So if that's one of your biggest fears for a lithium battery, really you don't have to worry about that anymore. Another con that people talk about on the internet is the life when stored in like a hot environment, like for example, the engine bay. I have done extensive testing on my rig, driving around the Texas heat, summer, hilly area, with a temperature probe inside where the battery is going to be, as well as having a Renogy lithium iron phosphate battery in the engine bay with constant temperature readings being sent to my phone. And really, if you don't drive, let's just say you drive 5 miles an hour or slower for 10 minutes, it's just going to be barely over ambient temp. Only when you get up to about an hour driving 5 miles an hour or slower in hilly areas with four-wheel drive engaged does that engine bay temp really get up to the peak of what the normal operating temperature or the acceptable operating temperature is of these batteries. So you really don't, in my mind, everyone it's a hot topic item to talk about online, but nobody really did any testing that I was able to find. So that's why I wanted to test the temperatures myself to see if it's really a concern that you really need to worry about, which I don't think it is. There is one guy that I've seen in Australia that has been running lithium iron phosphate batteries in his engine bay for I think 1.5 years or 2 years now, and there has been no noticeable deterioration with the performance of the battery. So I feel pretty comfortable with that in mind. And if you drive any faster than 5 miles an hour like almost instantly. Within a few minutes, the engine bay temperature gets back to ambient temp. So even if you're cruising or creeping at like 5 miles an hour for 30 minutes, and then you go 10 miles an hour for 5 minutes, you're already going to get the engine bay temperature down to like close to what the ambient temp is outside. So I don't think that's really a worry for these. So lithium iron phosphate batteries are a little bit more expensive than lead acid batteries, but the price has come way down in recent years. So it's actually getting pretty close to the same price if you take into account the life of a lithium battery. Also, you can build your own lithium batteries with cells, you know, A grade cells or B grade cells that you find online. I would highly suggest checking out a YouTube channel called DIY Solar with Will Prouse. He goes over a lot of DIY lithium battery setups you can do. I chose to go with the Renogy setup because they were having a sale. It was just too good to pass up, and it was a self-heating system as well, so I could it can charge and be used in much lower temperatures, as well as have a pretty decent upper end temperature operating range. So that's what I chose to do. But you know, there's a lot more options available with the types of lithium cells that are out there and how you can set it up. You can really customize it for what your need is. Whereas to even get close to the same amp hour capacity that I had for one 100 amp hour Renogy lithium iron phosphate battery, I would have had to spend, you know, close to the same amount of money on lead acid batteries. And I was looking at like golf cart batteries and having to do like a 12 volt system with that. And you know, that's just, all that stuff adds up, adds to complexity, adds for failure points. And I just wanted a simple system that's from a reputable company that I don't really have to worry about, and I can monitor with my phone. So I hope talking about this kind of helped you guys out, helped you understand why lithium really does outshine lead acid battery in all aspects except the price. Those were the things that I had come across when I was looking for it myself. And with all the positives that lithium offers, I chose to go that route instead of lead acid battery. You know, everyone has different budgets, everyone has different end goals, and if you want to just have two of the same batteries so that we don't have to worry about maybe one failing, that, you know, that there's all different reasons to choose a certain type of battery for what's best for your system. I'm just going over the pros and cons for each one and why I chose the lithium for my system. So hope this helped you guys out. I did just make a video on a dual battery setup with a DC to DC charger in my Sequoia, which I'm releasing the same day that I'm putting this video out. This is kind of just in conjunction with that video as well. That one was like a 30-minute video, so I didn't want to talk about all this stuff in that video, but this is just kind of an additional video to dive more into the pros and cons of this stuff for the people who wanted to learn about that. So hope this helped you guys out. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to watch my videos and stop by my channel. Like always, guys, keep on enjoying life out there. I hope you're having a great day, and thanks for watching.